We are nearly a week past the series' conclusion of The Acolyte, and while the show ended with an unsatisfying resolution, dozens of fans have taken to social media attempting to sway the Mouse House into renewing the show for a season 2. From a business perspective, this would make no sense. The Acolyte cost $180 million, and it was placed on a streaming network that is also very expensive to manage. It's estimated that Disney Plus cost the Walt Disney Company anywhere from $10 to $20 billion a year in service management and content creation. So you have a show that's extremely expensive on a streaming platform that's extremely expensive. How many people watched it? According to the Nielsen ratings, The Acolyte is the least watched Star Wars show on Disney Plus. The Acolyte went from 488 million minutes watched with its first 2 episodes to 370 million minutes watched by episode 3. And at that point, it was still charting in the top 10. By episode 4, it had dropped out of the top 10 with the 10th spot going to King of Collectibles, sitting at 298 million minutes watched. That is a considerable drop-off in watch time. If we assume that Acolyte Episode 4 got 297 minutes, putting it at number 11, and we compare it to the initial Week 1 release, that's a nearly 40% drop in viewing minutes in only 3 weeks. So no one is watching except content creators, and the show is very expensive to make from a company that needs to do things that increase stock price. Why would they renew a show that has not fostered new Disney Plus subscriptions? Why would they renew a show that has done considerable damage to their brand perception online? Why would they renew a show that has polarized customers more than The Last Jedi ever tried to do? And these are not questions directed at Lucasfilm. We know Lucasfilm hates the customer base with a fury. No, my questions are for Disney, who bankrolls this. Why would you fund the continuation of a product that has done so much damage to Star Wars? Hello, my friends, and welcome to The Pondering. I am the real-life fake wizard. If this video brings you any value at all, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, where we're posting new videos nearly every day. I knew before the series ended that I wanted to do a discussion video of all the damage this show has done, and I can hear the shills now. Well, Andor didn't get views at first. Yeah, but Andor had amazing word of mouth. So if views increased for Andor, it was because the show was really good.
Yes, yes.
Look around online right now. The only people talking positively about The Acolyte are creators on Disney payroll.
Star Wars is for everyone.
For everyone.
Star Wars is for everyone.
Or anime profile perverted shipper degenerates. Not exactly the go-to folks for a test group to compare to the overall Star Wars customer base. So don't count on word of mouth contributing to an increase in views. Next, they'll say, well, Legends isn't canon, and everything that was changed was only Legends, so it's not canon breaking. Okay, let's play that out. If the past stories were not canon, and now you've interjected new lore that goes away from those Legends, what you've interjected must still be good or better than the stories that came before it. And in the case of The Acolyte, the Legends were better than the stories told here. To remove what was previous lore consensus, to inject radically altered material, that material needs to be good. And by good, I mean widely accepted by the customer base, satisfying to the customers. And the majority of the customer base hates what has been interjected. Considerable damage has been done to the Star Wars story. The Jedi, who were figures for viewers to look up to as heroes, are now morally bankrupt, incompetent, and politically corrupt. Previous stories of the Jedi had them being flawed, but still morally good. Their virtues were inspirational to kids and adults alike. There was a reason we looked up to Luke Skywalker as a hero. He embodied all the traits that we as individuals aspire to be. To be able to look the embodiment of evil itself in the face and say, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to become like you, even after being manipulated and tempted by that evil. A choice which would be the catalyst to redeeming his father's damned soul. The Jedi make lots of mistakes. They are not without flaw, but the Jedi are supposed to be figures for viewers to look up to as heroes. They're supposed to be represented as morally good, the morally virtuous. The Acolyte depicts the Jedi as emotionally conflicted, guilt-ridden, murderous societal oppressors. When Chimere confesses he's a Sith, he also says that the Jedi claim he shouldn't exist.
And the Jedi say I can't exist.
And they play this off like the Jedi oppress the Sith from existence. It's not like that. The Sith are corrupt and evil, playing on their selfish desires and hedonistic intentions at the expense and destruction of those around them. Sheev Palpatine is a dictator. Kylo Ren is a selfish crybaby that blows up like 8 planets. Darth Vader murders children for the sake of maybe, quite possibly, perhaps, discovering an ancient and lost technique of saving loved ones with space magic. There was no manufacturer's guarantee on his turn to the dark side. Dude murdered kids on a hunch. These are not good people. The Sith are oppressors, and the Jedi are there to make sure the Sith do not destroy the galaxy. When the idea of being a Jedi requires sacrifice and dedication in service to achieving a morally virtuous goal, what are the Sith after? Even depicted in the Acolyte. Self-gratification. I can live whatever lifestyle I want. I can kill people who wrong me. My emotions matter. Who engages in selfish, self-gratification hedonism like that? Oh? Psychopathic, narcissistic, sadistic, and Machiavellian people? I don't know about you, dear viewer, but anytime I get close to a narcissist, I can't get the f*** away fast enough. And this attempt to blur the lines between good and evil is done so in bad faith. There is an argument to be made from a meta-psychological perspective that by doing this and destroying heroes who stand for morally good virtues, we will have no more heroes to look up to. And that's a sad and scary world. Looking at the character of Osha, can you say that you'd want your children to look up to this character? A character whose negative emotions are projected upon others? Did she suffer trauma? Yes. Did she lose loved ones? Yes. Is that enough to justify murdering her adoptive father? And I'm not saying what Soul did was good or bad. Did Soul deserve to be murdered for his actions? Well, actually, it doesn't matter what you or I think because the show played it off as an overwhelming yes. Osha crushes her adoptive father's neck while her sister smirks with satisfaction, and later they embrace with sympathetic hugs and tears, while creepy dude Chimere lurks around like a predator, waiting to take one of them as his prisoner. And that takes us into the next point. Chimere is a villain. He's a bad guy. He's a malevolent, toxic narcissist who uses Osha's distress to manipulate her into murdering her adoptive father figure. Chimere is the kind of guy that fathers warn their daughters about. The kind of guy who will throw Osha away like she's nothing if she were to go against what he wants. And he actually admits to her that she shouldn't trust him, which was good because it means he's self-aware to his selfish intentions. Now that is an interesting character, yes. Chimere is the most interesting character on the show, and funny enough, he's the guy the Access Media articles have been talking about for the last 4 weeks. So, where's the problem? Well, the show plays him off as a sympathetic character for the audience to root for. This guy should be perceived as a murderous villain to avoid, and instead, Twitter X shippers all over the internet are posting their desires for a romance between Chimere and Osha. This is a dangerous point and not something that should be taken so lightly. Why are people glorifying this toxic and dangerous behavior? It's crazy to me how this show has opened up the door for psychological discussions on good and evil, when it was clearly obvious in the original 6 films what good and bad are. Chimere is used like a smut romance fantasy character than the dangerous psychopath that he actually is. Everyone that has seen my face must die.
So now I have to kill every single last one of you.
Oh, you mean something a serial killer would say. The Acolyte does not give us anything positive or worthwhile to look forward to. Whereas the Thanos cameo at the end of the Avengers 2012 film was exciting because it gave fans a roadmap of something new and inspiring to look forward to, Darth Plagueis showing up as a cave-dwelling goblin does nothing more than retroactively change the legacy and history of all the films that came before it. What was once a legendary villain that we never saw and only ever read about, a character that hid in plain sight as a genius tactician, has had his character assassinated for a key jangling moment in a series that will go down in history as being the first canceled D+ Star Wars series. Plagueis' obsession with harnessing dark side powers to create life is now reduced to he heard about some lesbian space witches that did it, so now he wants to do it. That's, boring. Yoda as well appears in the final scene, wherein Vernestra approaches and says she has something to discuss with him. Could it be the fraud she has just committed in the Senate tribunal? Or perhaps that she knows the true identity of the killer and that it's her former Padawan? Will Yoda now become an accomplice to these lies? Bullshit this is! There was a lot of discussion when episode 3 premiered, and people were mad about the thread and the power of many and the twins being conceived, that this was the worst thing to ever happen to Star Wars. But then each week it seemingly got worse. I have here a list of questions that I've been writing down each week, hoping that they'd be answered. They haven't. What does the power of one, two, or many mean? In Dara, the power of one very clearly kills all the witches without even a bead of sweat, where the witch is not using the power of many. What is the Vergence on Brendok? How did they use it to create Osha and May? What exactly does it mean that they are a single consciousness split into two people? They made a point that Yord learned to speak Gopher and that it's rare. Can everyone else understand Gopher? How did Osha put Chimere in the Mind Palace in episode 8? She doesn't know how to do that. What does the brand on May's head mean or do? And why couldn't Soul see it when they were on the ship together? Why did the Gopher sabotage Soul's ship? Why does time consistency and space travel feel so inconsistent? Why couldn't the Jedi use the individual girls' blood samples to prove there was a Vergence on Brendok? Why couldn't both girls go with Chimere to escape the Jedi? What is Plagueis doing in that cave they were just in? Why haven't Plagueis or Chimere made a suit of armor out of that large vein of cortosis? How did Senator Harwood find out about the murder investigation? The Jedi Council was keeping that hidden from the Senate. Is there a leak? Is everyone capable of psychometry now? You know how the Jedi walk into scenes and hear what happened in the past? Are they hearing that with the Force? Or intuition? Or, I don't know, explain that. Because psychometry is supposed to be a rare ability that only a few Force users can do. Cal Kestis being the one of note who can do it. Why is Osha so powerful in the Force that she bleeds a crystal without trying? It almost killed Darth Vader. It nearly destroyed Kylo Ren's crystal. Why is Girl Boss so girl bossing unfazed with crystal bleeding? What is the lifespan of Syrian people now that you've changed Ki-Adi-Mundi's birthday? Why was Soul so infatuated with the girls upon seeing them as children? I want to believe it was intended to be a parental relationship, but good God, you played it off like Soul is a creeper. What the hell is the Demon Dust Thanos snap ability Anastasia uses? And why did she do that? Don't say you think it was apparating into the Force. That's f***ing stupid. Is Darth Tenebrous still around? How will this affect LeBron's legacy? And why did Torben unalive himself? Actually, don't answer that, because whatever you say will be an awful representation of mental illness. Tying this up, there are clearly a lot of questions unanswered. A lot of changes have been permanently added to the Star Wars story, adjusting things in ways that makes the story virtually different. I didn't even have time to get into how this show diluted the value of Anakin Skywalker's character arc, but I did in some other videos, so I invite you to check those out too. I believe that Lucasfilm and showrunner Leslie Headland think that this was great work. They believe that this is the vision of their Star Wars of tomorrow, that they've been saying for years to reject the past. How better to do that than by retelling the origins and changing everything from the very beginning? Well, if the ratings are any indication, it's a colossal and financial failure. And good, fuck them. I hope no one buys any more Disney Star Wars product. Let them keep pushing their bullshit narratives and narcissistic characters. No one wants them. And those that do will always be the minority customer base. Star Wars was once a multi-billion-dollar franchise. And the more that Disney f***s with it, the more it will remain a million-dollar franchise. My friends, I want to thank you for joining me for this pondering episode. If this video brought you any value at all, please subscribe to the channel, like this video. If you didn't like anything I had to say, well, thanks for hanging around this long. Until next time, my friends, create, innovate, inspire. May the thread of contrived destiny be with you. And for the love of God, cancel Disney Plus. Do it. I guess, if you want. If you want.